the book baron that didn't plug in her mic, you idiot. Welcome in, everybody. Sorry if I made your ears bleed, but hopefully we have remedied the situation and Kevin is lurking around and he is moving on. We didn't even get a tail appearance with that one. Oh, he's back. Never mind. All right. So what are we doing today? Today, we're going to be talking about some thick bitches. We're going to be talking about some big books. So I historically have had a fear of big books, and I know that I'm not alone in that. It can feel really intimidating to pick up a book that's 800 pages because I always think about, like, what if I don't end up liking it and I get halfway through and I DNF, and during that time I could have read a whole other book and have been finished by now. Or you get to the end and it turns out it was just okay. But I have recently, within the past year or so, been really challenging my fear of big books, and so I wanted to round up the longest ones of the bunch that I have read in the past year so that I can tell you whether or not they are worth the length. I have done this one other time, so I'm not going to be repeating any of those books. All of these books are from within the past year since I've done that first video. And I'll link that other video up here if you want to check that one out. And like last time, I set some parameters for myself to make sure that I'm maximizing value of this video for you so you can get the most out of it. So there aren't any books on this list that, wait, what? That's a double negative. I can't say it like that. Hold on. All the books on here have some element of a romance. That's primarily what I read, and I don't think you guys really care whether or not I think a chunky sci-fi book is worth your time. Long, in this case, is any books that are like 600 plus pages, because the convention for romances is about 300 to 350 pages. So honestly, even 400 pages is long, and some of the ones on here have 1,000 pages. I also will not be talking about any books that I've talked about in the past couple of months. If you've been around and have seen a couple of my videos, you've already heard about these books, so let's talk about something that I haven't talked about recently. And I'm not doing any sequels because you already know if you want to read a sequel in a proper series because you read the first book and made that determination. So with all that said, I have 10, kind of 11 books here for you. And without further ado, let's just jump into things after that extremely long intro. So we're not really jumping into things, are we? Okay, let's get to the books. First things first, we'll start with the longest ones first. And the longest book that I've read in the past year has been Kushiel's Dart, which is part of the Fedra trilogy, which is by Jacqueline Carey. This is a fantasy, and I would say that this almost leads more erotica than it does romance, although there is a romantic subplot. Fedra is born with very unique feature. She has a scarlet spot in her eye. They call it the scarlet moat, and her parents really don't catalog this at all. They come on hard times and end up selling her off into indentured servitude. And the guy that ends up purchasing her bond recognizes what that little moat means.
Hi, so Editing Baron here to help you out so much since I made such a big deal about what that scarlet moat is and then never explained what it was. So it means that she can experience pleasure and pain at the same time, or pain gets reconverted in her brain into pleasure. It also means that there's a lot of people that, much like Tyga, want to get a taste. So I think you can understand the BDSM type direction that this is headed. Yes? No? Great. Okay, let's move on.
And he is going to take advantage because he has a very special mission that he would like to send her on. So he trains Fedra in the many ways of the court, but also trains her in the talents of entertaining in a bedchamber, shall we say? This combination of training means that she is going to have access to some very private areas for some people who are very high up. So he trains her to spy, to be incredibly observant and remember everything, which is how she stumbles on a plot that threatens her homeland. Is this book worth your time? Yes, absolutely. It is a truly epic fantasy. Think like Stormlight Archives or Wheel of Time. If you like those types of series, you'll definitely love this trilogy. It's got rich world building, incredible court politics. We're covering large swaths of time with this character from when she's very young to when she's in the thick of everything and uncovering this plot. But you have to like a couple of different things. One, you have to enjoy some very detailed writing because this character has been trained to see and pick up on everything. So she tells you about everything she sees. And some of it's interesting and some of it's not. There's a lot of little pieces that start coming together. So it all ends up kind of being important. You also have to really be okay with the romance really not playing a role almost at all, especially in this first book. I would say you probably go about 90% of the book not even really knowing if the love interest is even a love interest. And also, she's banging everybody she runs into. I also have to acknowledge that I have a very biased lens when it comes to this book. Much like Jacob on Renesmee, I have imprinted upon it. I read this for the first time in high school. I reread it recently as an adult. It very much still holds up. So keep that in mind, but it is a very sweeping fantasy, and I think it really has stood the test of time. So the next longest book that I read is technically not a book, it's fan fiction. It's Manacled by Sen Lin Yu. I'm gonna go ahead and skip this one because this is sort of a one-off situation and it's no longer available for you to easily access and be able to read. So I just feel like it's a bit silly to be talking about this at all. So I guess go read Alchemized. That's the proper traditional published version of this and you can more easily access. But yes, I do think this is worth it if you happen to have access to Manacled. All right, next up we have no article here. Oh, my brain is soup. Okay, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. This is an urban fantasy romance. This is about Bryce Quinlan, and she is living the party girl dream. She works hard and she plays hard. But this is all derailed when one of her closest friends is brutally murdered. I really ruined that sentence. So they end up catching the person that they believe to be responsible, but it turns out after a couple years, they might have gotten the wrong guy. Very similar crimes have started happening again around the city, and they need Bryce's help to uncover what's really going on and who really committed this murder. And this is how she is paired up with a fallen angel named Hunt, known for his brutal assassination skills, but I did in fact write association skills and had to think for a second about what I was trying to say there. People give him a wide berth. I mean, they're not trying to get unalived themselves. He is under the control of the Archangels because he attempted to overthrow them a number of years ago, and so he's kind of serving out a sentence, and so they force him to team up with Bryce on this investigation, because this might just be how he's able to earn his freedom. So is this book worth your time? I want to thread this needle so carefully, and I'm probably still gonna botch it. I'm gonna say no, I don't. Hear me out. It's not because I don't think this book is good. It's actually my favorite SJM book. I like the investigation, the paranormal elements are fun, it's urban fantasy, but still in an alternate universe. I mean, there were some big info dumps towards the beginning, but that was really my biggest gripe with this book, honestly. But if you're on the fence, if you haven't already read this series, I'm gonna guess you're not an SJM stan. And from what I've seen from my non-SJM stan friends, they were very disappointed in the later books. So what's the point of starting a series when there's a high likelihood that you won't like the later two books? It's a waste of your time, especially because these books are chunky. Now I'm basing this off of other people's opinion because I personally, although I loved this book, was not compelled to continue reading the series. So I think that says a lot. Again, it's not that it's a bad book, I just don't think it's worth your time. Next up is one that I think is being traditionally published soon, and that is Fairydale by Veronica Lancet. So this is historical gothic romance, kind of has some paranormal fantasy, almost horror elements at times. It's kind of a hard one to describe because the feeling transitions through the book, but I'll explain in a bit. So this is set in 1955 with Miss Darcy O'Sullivan, who's an English teacher in Boston. She grew up an orphan, but finds out that she was included in her late biological father's will. All she has to do to claim her inheritance is travel to Fairydale and attend her father's funeral. Seems simple enough. But when she arrives in the small coastal town, Darcy encounters strange residents, rumors, unexplained deaths, and everything feels just a little bit sinister. This is where she ends up meeting a man by the name of Caleb Hale, who's a brooding member of the very notorious Hale family, and he really challenges her to start stepping outside of her comfort zone. But weirdly, when Darcy goes to sleep, it's not Caleb, her romantic interest, that she ends up dreaming of. It's of this nobleman from years ago named Amon. And these dreams are so vivid, her love for Amon is so vivid, that she starts questioning her sanity. And this is happening while an ancient evil begins emerging within Fairydale. So is this one worth your time? Yes, but your mileage may vary. I'm gonna put a lot of caveats on this one. The vibes on this one, especially at the beginning, are immaculate. Very spooky, eerie, gothic. It almost feels like a horror movie. It plays out so vividly in your mind. It's impossible really to figure out what's real and what's not, and what's something that's actually happened or a trick of the mind. Nothing is what it ever seems at first. And part of what really makes this fun is the mystery, is putting it together, and it is slow to come together. Now, by the end, it moves into more of a proper fantasy direction, feels vastly different than the beginning portions, but the romance is sweeping. Oh my goodness. And the spice is feral. Actually, proper wild animal style feral. But the reason that I kind of hesitate and struggle to make a blanket recommendation for this one is because it is such a unique story. I think that if you don't like the mystery and that slow build or being confused for a large portion of the book, you probably won't enjoy this. And the pacing towards the end, I will say, also gets a bit strange because there's almost like 3 different plot points and one of them gets introduced very late in the book. And so you have to kind of take a break from the other 2 plot points to spend some time on that one and then resume the rest of it. So that pacing I know can throw people off. It certainly threw me off. And because it's a long book, the romance also takes a while to get going and backslides a whole bunch. You also don't really know who you're rooting for or even if one of the romances is real. So your mileage may vary drastically, but if you're open, I would say yes, this is absolutely worth your time. Next up, I have When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. So I have a vlog reading this book. I will link it up in the cards for you if you want to go check out my full thoughts and feelings. This is a romantasy, and this is a first in an incomplete series. I think the next book is coming out in February. It was supposed to be October, but we were cheated. The date was pushed back. Basically, in this world, the lore goes that dragons were created by the gods, and upon their demise, they go up into the sky and hang out as moons. Like, that's their final resting place, their grave, if you will. And then sometimes they come crashing down. The dragons were created by one god, but the other gods are more elemental based. And the way that you have power in this society is by being able to hear one or more of the gods. So there are some people that can hear no one, and there are some people that I would assume can hear all of them, although that is incredibly rare. This is the world that we find our heroine in, and she is a bounty hunter here, and she is part of a rebellion group. She's partly there by choice, partly there by compulsion, but she gets a little bit sloppy on her latest bounty and ends up getting herself caught. And the gilded nobles, the people who can hear 2 gods or more, so they're a little bit higher up than the common folk, they want to make a political statement because she's going after a lot of their ilk. And she is held in prison while she awaits her sentence. Now, this is where she meets Khan. He's on the hunt for some moon shards when he ends up kind of stumbling into the prison and realizing he is seeing nothing short of a miracle in front of him. Is this one worth your time? Unequivocally. Did I say that word right or no? Doesn't matter. Yes. 1,000% yes. This is one of the best fantasies I have read in such a long time. Like, genuinely, I think the last time I enjoyed a fantasy this much was probably A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Mila Vane. Don't get me started on that series. I'm so upset that that's still not finished. We power onwards. The beginning of this can be a little bit confusing, flowery, and I think the writing might put some people off initially, but the world is so unique, so rich, and so complex without feeling like it's different just for the sake of being different. So it just takes a while to set up. Once you get going around the 25 to 30% mark, it truly takes off, and that's where it gets so good. There is so much pining in the romance. My eyes are glassy now because I'm getting touched by the fact that I'm talking about the romance. I just had a coughing fit that I just cut out. That's what that jump cut was. And there's so many secrets and memories to uncover. The heroine is properly strong. She's not just stubborn. She's not just snarky, but she is truly badass, capable, and has this amazing self-deprecating sense of humor. The hero, oh, the pining. This man is also very alpha, gruff, broody, without being cruel, which is kind of impressive because so often cruelty and broodiness and gruffness get conflated, and then we get these asshole heroes. The politics in this world that get introduced the further you get into this book gets more and more complicated and have so many implications for the romance. And the epilogue gave us so much new information about where this is going and left us on such a big cliffhanger. I reread the epilogue 5 times. I didn't want to miss anything. So if someone is going to ask me what romantasy should I read, is it worth it? Absolutely 100% yes. All right, next up we have The Things We Water by Mariana Zapata. This is a paranormal romance that's got a slow burn. So we have our heroine, Nina, and Nina is in need of some very special help. She found a magical puppy that she has taken on as her own, but puppy's starting to get bigger, puppy's starting to reveal some powers. She needs a safe place to continue raising this puppy. And she finds it in the form of this sprawling ranch in Colorado. It's this magical community that helps hide a lot of the creatures that are around, allowing them to live in peace. But the only problem is this ranch is owned by her best friend's very attractive cousin that she's already had some run-ins with, named Henry Blackrock. And he might just derail her ability to stay there long term. Is this one worth your time? I'm gonna say no. This isn't a bad book by any means. I think it's just a little bit aimless. It's pretty much slice of life, which is something that I think you can get in a lot of other books in a lot shorter page count. I think also, if you're a fellow romance reader, I'm assuming you are if you're here. If not, what are you doing here? I would love to know, actually. That sounded snarky, but I am really curious. We got off track. But the romance is slow. I love a slow burn as much as the next person, but when we're talking about an 800-page book and you spend about 80% of it at the same speed, it gets a little repetitive. And then suddenly one conversation and we're doing the full shebang. Given how much book we had to ramp up, I just didn't feel that slow build like I normally do with her books. And just to be frank, I really don't think that the romance is the focus of this book. A lot of this book is more about what it means to be a parent, which is fine, but as a romance reader, that's not really what I'm looking for. This one, not worth your time. Next one is Did They Break You by KV Rose. So this is a new release from Miss Kaylee Valentine herself. This is a dark romance, it's second chance, it's bully, and we have a dual timeline here. In the past timeline, we have Remy, our heroine, who's this quiet cheerleader, kind of goes unnoticed. She's not really popular, she's not really unpopular. She just kind of floats under the radar until Cortland ends up moving to her small town that's in the middle of nowhere. So he's the brand new disco stick in town, and everyone wants to hop on because he's the head jock. That's not a position. He's the quarterback. He's a quarterback in a small town that's obsessed with football. They love him. But anyways, he spots Remy and just can't seem to turn away from her. He's intrigued by her despite having the head cheerleader as a girlfriend. But when the book opens, we kind of get this turning point in both of their lives. It's a very traumatic scene, so I'm gonna warn you up front. Please approach this book with caution and definitely check trigger warnings on this one, because something really horrible and assault-like happens to Remy, and she's not the same after this. She's wearing oversized hoodies, she's dyeing her hair, she's reclusive, she's just very broken. She's a very different person going into college than she was in high school. Cortland ends up going to the same college as her, and though he knows that he should stay away, he should leave well enough alone, he barely got away the first time because he knows they are responsible for what happened to Remy. He just can't stay away. He can't stand that she is not his anymore. Is this one worth your time? In my opinion, yes. But I don't want to blanket recommend this one to everyone because of how dark it is. I think this one does need to be approached with caution, not only because of the darkness, but also because the content is really heavy and I don't think it's something everybody wants to read. But personally, this was my favorite book that I've read so far this year. I savored every single page in that book. I didn't want it to be over. I had the epilogue left and I closed my book. I don't have a physical book. I turned off my Kindle because I was like, I'm gonna save that for the morning. That's my little treat to myself in the morning. But to me, this is an example of dark romance when it's at its best, because it takes a tough situation, it takes a tough topic, it takes tough circumstances, and it manages to convince you that there are two people that could fall in love in this situation. I like that this lived in the gray the entire time. It dealt with a topic that is truly morally challenging. And you live with a lot of cognitive dissonance throughout the entire book because yes, Cortland did this horrible thing and we never walked that back at any point. And also, you want him to get with Remy because you can tell that they're really good for one another and that he's totally gone for her. I managed to somehow feel so much for both of these characters, although they are far from perfect. They are so flawed. And it really throws this idea of this truly evil perpetrator out to commit some atrocity, although those people do exist, and this perfect victim out the window. And it presents you with two very flawed people just trying their best. Bad choices were made, and there were real consequences. There's this emotional intensity to this book, this sadness that I think is kind of similar to Ecstasy if you've read that from her, but trade addiction for an essay situation. In the end, the romance ends up being very, very sweet, although it's very rough and very dark at the beginning. And like I said, I think for a lot of people, full stop, after knowing what Cortland did, that they either don't want to read that scene, totally fair. And also there may be some people that just cannot get past that and have Cortland be the hero, which again, totally fair. Just be aware going in that this is going to be a tough read, especially because I think that this doesn't really lean into the unhinged. It stays pretty firmly rooted in reality, which I think makes it a tougher read. Do I think it's worth it? Yes, but take care of yourself. It's a dark one. It doesn't have to be for everybody. It is the cilantro of books. It's going to be polarizing. And I'm just realizing I don't have a physical copy. That is so weird. I need to get on that. Okay, anyways, moving on to the next book. Next up is No Tomorrow by Carey and Cole. I also have a vlog of this one. I will put a link up in the cards. This is a standalone. This has a rock star, mental health, drug addiction, and surprise pregnancy / secret baby. So the heroine is in her early 20s and she's just starting to launch life. She's kind of got a crap job. She's still living with her parents. She just hasn't quite gotten there yet and feels like a full adult. She goes to the park every day to eat her lunch and she ends up meeting an unhoused busker in the park. They interact every day and kind of develop this very unlikely romance until he disappears entirely from her life. But this is when our poor heroine Piper ends up realizing that she is pregnant. 5 years later, he turns up in the most unlikely of places. He's the lead singer in a popular new band, and she's like, I gotta let him know about his mini-me here. So she gets tickets to his latest show and has plans to be reunited, but this is not without its challenges. So is this one worth your time? Sadly, I'm gonna say no. I know this is beloved by many, but not by me, because I'm not like the other girls. No, I think that this has a lot of the right ingredients, and I think if they are taken just at face value, you can enjoy this book. We've got a damaged hero, mental health struggles, addiction, but I think this really fumbled the ball because I found it very difficult to sympathize with this absolute shitbag of a hero. Didn't feel like I got enough of his backstory or knew enough about him to really sympathize with his deadbeat ways. I can understand some of them on an academic level, but I felt like I needed his perspective or more of his backstory because I just ended up hating him. And I felt so protective of the heroine, especially because she was doing all this chasing and bending and changing while she has a kid in tow. So we're not just talking about two people going through a wild, toxic time together. There's a kid in the mix. And I think that's what really rubbed me the wrong way. So I think you could probably figure out that just based on the fact that I don't like the hero, that kind of makes the romance fall apart. And when we're talking about a book that's primarily about a romance and that part doesn't work, it's just not a book that's really gonna work. I can understand on a logical level why the heroine feels drawn to him, but I never felt that deep emotional connection. I just got really frustrated with this one, so I don't think this one's worth your time. Next up, we have Hills of Shivers and Shadows by Pam Godwin. This is also in a vlog. I will link that one up here as well. This is the first in a proper 3-book series. It's dark, romantic suspense. Why choose? This is about Frankie, who ends up getting abducted and taken into the Alaskan bush at this very remote cabin. She finds herself here at the mercy of these very rugged and unsocialized men. She has to try and escape, and in order to do so, she needs to learn their secrets and try and find out why she was even taken in the first place. And in the process, she begins to uncover how much love and loyalty are used as a weapon and how deep those secrets truly go. And all the while, she has to survive in the rugged Alaskan bush. So, is this one worth your time? Yes, absolutely. I loved not only this book, but every single book in this series, despite all of them being so damn chunky. I think this has a really solid suspense plot line. There's like a mystery element to it, so you're able to put some pieces together, but I couldn't put it all together even, and notoriously easy for me to figure these things out. There's a lot of great character work here. Frankie is tough but adaptable. She still has kind of those human moments without feeling like she gives up. She really kind of trauma bonds with all of these guys, although I don't think I'm using trauma bond correctly. Side note, I don't think most of society at this point is using trauma bond correctly, so strike that from the record, but also hopefully you catch my drift. Anyways, we got derailed there. But I think those relationships allow each of the characters to show a little bit of a softer side in a life that is really tough and rugged in every capacity. And I liked that each of the relationships was kind of developed a little bit differently with each of the men, and you don't really know who's all gonna be part of the choosing in the Why Choose. I also really liked that I felt like all of the guys really had a unique voice and perspective and feel to them, and then you have that added tension of we have to survive in these horrible conditions. So not only are we up against other people, we're up against nature itself. There is a pacing lull in this book, probably around the 30% mark, but there's a lot of little subtle things that happen with character development and relationship development, and there's a lot of hints as to what's going on with the plot. So even that lull, I still say this one's worth it. All right, next up, well, this one's also in a vlog. This is the last one, I swear, that I think's been in a vlog. Anyways, it's A Love Letter to Whiskey by Kandi Steiner. Oh, the vlog's up here. I think you know the drill by now. This is a friends to lovers, second chance, angsty, right person, wrong time. So this is about Jamie and B, and they've been entangled for years. So B quite literally runs into Jamie one day when she's out jogging with a friend, and her friend kind of steps in between them and steps up to her. And despite the fact that B immediately is attracted to Jamie, she sees that Jamie and her friend are starting to hit it off, and she kind of takes a step back and lets that happen. But with them dating, it means that B and Jamie are spending a lot of time together, and they're finding more and more that actually they have a ton in common. They love the same types of music, they love to surf, there's this chemistry, this pull towards one another, but they can just never get the timing right because we follow them for over a decade while they're continuously pulled apart and drawn back together. Do I think this one is worth your time? Controversially, no. This book, I know for a lot of people, is deeply emotional, very angsty. I mean, enough so, there's enough love for this book that this has been trad pubbed, and I just looked at my notes really fast and I wrote trad pubed, and that's disgusting. And I have to live with that because I'm the person that wrote it. Well, I guess now you have to live with it too because I told you. We got distracted. We're moving back onto this. For me, I never got fully invested in this romance. I think part of it is because of how this is told. I don't like books that are very time constrained, where we're not spending a lot of time with the characters, seeing their day-to-day, seeing them spend time together, interacting, and having some of those normal moments. There was too much skipping around in the timeline. Even within the same time period, if we were in college, we would skip a month to get ahead to the next time that they ran into each other. And so then the characters are spending a lot of time telling us what's been going on in their life and telling us about their feelings. And so you don't feel the emotions. This could have been so good if we had gotten more of that, because there was a chunk of this that I was enjoying because we got more time together. We got to see the characters really interact for multiple days in a row. That's the section that I loved the most. But it was really hard outside of that little section to really feel attached to either of the characters because I just don't have a lot of experience with them. And I especially didn't really have a lot of experience with them as a couple together. And you never really felt like you got any breathing room where these two were just together and having a good time without something kind of looming in the background. I think it really got frustrating because both of them could have chosen to be together and kind of kept playing victim, like their circumstances absolutely prevented them from being together, which just wasn't true. They could have made sacrifices and they chose not to. So they just came across as immature rather than angsty to me. So is this a horrible book? No, a lot of people love it, but I think you can find something that packs an emotional punch that is shorter than this. All right, last one, and thank goodness for that because I am sweating and really want to open my windows. This should be illegal. It's fall now. Why is it warm? But anyways, I have Do I have a vlog of this one too? Guys, I think this one's also in a vlog. If I do, it'll appear in the cards in just a second. So this one is The Words by Ashley Jade. This is a rock star, second chance, enemies to lovers. So we have our heroine who is kind of a geek in high school, a little bit nerdy, and she doesn't have a ton of friends. She's a little bit on the heavier side, so she doesn't have a ton of confidence. And he was always this cool guy, but they end up bonding because she has to tutor him. But they end up having a pretty significant falling out. Now, years down the line, he's this famous rock star and he is in a bad spot. He just lost one of his bandmates and he has been boozing hard ever since and has made some pretty destructive decisions. It's landing him in the news. It's not a great image for his band. They need to get him back on track. They need to be able to tour. They keep having issues with the sober companions that they pick for him because he ends up banging all of them. So they end up hiring the person they know for sure will not sleep with him, the girl from high school that he had a falling out with. And while she might really want to say no to this whole proposition, because she truly does hate him, she really does need that money. So is this one worth your time? Absolutely. The setup of this is like prime YA novel goodness, but make it adult. We've got a bad boy that needs a tutor and he really sees the real her, but you kind of start to hate him for most of the book. He will make her feel seen only to weaponize that against her. I struggled to feel bad with him at a certain point, even though I know he's really going through it. He's really grieving, but she would kind of jab him just like this much, just a little bit, and he would come back like karate chop and axe a whole limb off. And that was such a dark analogy. Jesus fucking Christ. Why is my brain the way it is? So you just think there's no way you're going to come around to him. But he really learns to be accountable for his actions and make better decisions and not to be so self-destructive all the time. A lot of this book was them encountering challenges and hardships and bumps and figuring out how to navigate this together, which I think is realistically what happens in a lot of relationships. That's like all of real relationships. There were a couple things that I didn't super love. I felt like there was like an unnecessary love triangle and there's a precocious team that bond the couple together. I don't fucking care. But the vast majority of this book was so fun. So absolutely, this one is absolutely worth the length. Those are some of the longest books that I have read in the past year. And funny enough, these books are so much longer than the last time that I did this. So I think I'm starting to get over my big book fear, guys. I'm really proud of me. Hopefully this has helped you make some decisions about whether or not these books are worth your time and which ones you can safely avoid. I would love to hear from you if you agree or disagree about any of these. I'm totally open to you guys fighting for your faves in the comments. Other perspectives are always welcome. And I would also love to hear, I don't know why I'm aggressively pointing like this. I'd also love to hear if there are any long books that you really think are worth it or aren't worth it. I would love to hear that as well. With all of that, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like this video if at any point you found yourself liking it just a little bit, maybe you found it a little bit helpful. And don't forget to subscribe if you would like more content from me. I put out videos pretty much every Friday, or at least I do my best. Watch those videos late. And I really, really hope I see you in my next video. Bye-bye.